see if we do this? You feel the car really just go side to side uncontrollably? Trevor.
Yeah.
You want to see if we make your Chevelle handle better?
Yeah.
All right, hang tight, guys. All right, Trevor, there's two main things I want you to try to pay attention to on this test drive.
Right.
And those are the things we're going to try to improve. They both relate to handling. The first one is bumps. Do you feel, pay attention when the car hits the bumps, and you can feel what it feels like. It kind of rattles the whole car.
Yeah.
And it feels loose in the back end, doesn't it? So we're going to do something to address that. The other thing we're going to do to address is the way the car handles, meaning how it handles in a corner.
All right.
Now, you've probably noticed it a few times when we've been driving the car and we turn a corner when we're going a little bit faster, it feels like we're going to tip over. Well, we're going to go ahead and do some things to the car that's going to make that a lot better.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of good bumps up here that you'll really feel when we go over this bridge. You're going to really feel the suspension, how it just kind of rattly and loose, and it feels different than any other car you've probably ridden in. And that's because the car is sat for so long and it's so old, the suspension is worn out. And that's the side effect, is the way it feels. I'll see if I can hit some bumps over here. Like you feel that big clunk in the back and it's a harsh kick. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? Even right there you can feel it.
Yeah.
Right there. See, and it just you feel like the car feels like the back's wiggling. It's like the dog wiggling his butt.
Yeah.
Woo. See? Now part of that is your trunk. You don't have a trunk seal, so the trunk lid's going to rattle and move. But it's also because your suspension is completely shot. You need to fix your accelerator pump. Feel how those bumps just hit, kind of shake the whole car. I think one of the best ways to describe it is it feels uncontrolled. So the car is hitting a bump, but it doesn't really feel like the car is able to control the wheels as it hits the bump. And that's what gives us that jarry, rattly feeling, and that does affect the way the car rides, but also how well it can handle in a corner. So this is an old 70s muscle car, so it's not going to handle good in a corner, especially compared by today's standards. But this car is not handling as well as it should be.
All right.
Go over these big bumps here. It's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
That's because your suspension's so worn out. And these big bumps are nice, big, smooth rollers. So that's why it's not so bad. But you see how the car doesn't feel like it just goes up and down over the bump. You can feel it wiggle around. That probably, the wiggliness is probably the suspension bushings. All right, you feel the car lean?
Yeah.
And we're going through a relatively slow corner. Feel that?
Yeah.
That's bad. So that's a different problem than going over bumps. And that has to do with the body roll of the car and the physics of the car wanting to lean and the suspension allowing it to go from side to side. So we'll do an impromptu slalom, which is how they judge body roll. But if you see, if we do this, feel the car really just go side to side uncontrollably, and it was tossing you around, and I didn't even give you a warning that that was going to happen, did I?
No.
So we're going to do some things with the sway bars to fix that. What I think we should do real quick is have you hop out and film it from the outside. And I'll do that again, okay?
I think I hear it. Yeah, there it is.
Alright, sir. The initial test is done. I've shown you the things that your car does really bad. Let's go home and see if we can make it do it a little less really bad. Maybe it can be only bad. Alright. So after sitting for 25 years, abandoned, Trevor's barn find 72 Chevelle handles and drives for the most part like you would think, as you guys just saw. It is pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm anticipating that the shocks are completely gone. They have no dampening ability. The springs aren't that great. They've probably softened up over the years. It rides pretty compliant, but I actually don't hate the ride height right now, so we'll leave the springs. We're not going to worry about that. And the handling, well, it's got worn out suspension bushings, I'm sure. It's got worn out shocks, worn out springs, and it's a 70s muscle car. It handles like one would expect. Yeah. So we need to make some upgrades. Now, I did happen to come across yet another outstanding Facebook find. So I initially was going to buy these sway bars, and the gentleman that I bought them from ended up having these shocks that he wanted to get rid of. They were brand new. I made a package deal. I think these are BMR sway bars. It's a larger front sway bar. Your car does not even have a rear sway bar.
Really?
So
Oh, wow.
So we're going to add that in. And we're going to replace all the shocks. And this is going to be a pretty easy, low buck way to make your car handle better, ride better, and drive better, and be a little bit safer on the road. Which is a huge perk for you, because these are all safety items. That means you're not on the hook for these parts. So I scored all these parts. I think I paid $150 for them all. They're all brand new. So it was definitely worth it. I know that everything on this car is shot. We will eventually need to go back and put all new suspension bushings in this car, especially before I turn Trevor loose on it in the road. But for now, we're going to hit these. This will be a quick and easy little makeover. Let's start with just doing the shocks on the car. I want to put the shocks on. I want to show you what they do and the difference they make, especially these new ones versus the old ones. We can drive the car and see how it rides with the new shocks. It might handle a little better with them. The sway bars are going to make the big difference there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So the sway bars are the one that the back doesn't have?
Correct.
Is that why it rattles so much?
No, that would be the shocks.
Oh, okay.
So the sway bars, when we're just driving straight, don't really make much of a difference on the car at all. The shocks do. The sway bars are when I was doing the slaloming.
When you're swaying?
Yes. They'll make that a lot different.
Alright.
Okay? Let's start with the front. I anticipate those being the worst.
Okay.
We'll get the car jacked up. We'll take the front wheels off. We're going to replace the front shocks with the new ones here.
Alright.
Then when we get to the rear, I'll actually stop halfway through. It'll be a great opportunity for me to show you or teach you what the shocks actually do on the car.
Okay.
Alright. Let's get to it. Trevor, why don't you come around to the front of the car?
All right.
Do you see this bolt right there where I got it all lubricated?
Yeah.
Right there. That's your upper shock bolt. And that can be hard to get out, and I was anticipating that we would have to go from the inner fender well to pull those out. And it's hard because the shock shaft can twist.
Okay.
We have pretty decent access up here from the top. So I'll do this other side first. I'll try, because we have the AC compressor to work around.
Okay.
But I can get this extension on it, and I'm hoping that with the extension and this impact gun, we can just zip that nut off, and this will save us a lot of headache.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna do this side. If it works, you're doing the other one.
Okay.
And it did not work. So what's happening is the entire shock shaft is twisting. Oh, it's going. Almost. Now, you wouldn't do this with the new shock, because it's spinning the shaft and it's really hard on it. It's bad for it, for all the seals and valves, but we don't care on these ones. There we go. We got it.
You got it?
So let me get this set up for you on this side.
All right.
Be careful with this gun, because as you probably heard, it spins fast. And you don't want it to throw that extension or socket around on you. There you go. Give her a whirl. Hold on a sec. Let's pull it off, the socket off, and see how much it came. Yep. And so it came halfway up. So put that back on. This is what I ended up doing on my side.
All right.
I went down,
All right.
Now go. More. 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 There you go. You tightened it.
Yeah.
So now when we go reverse, it's going to give us a running start to get past that point. There you go. I think you got it.
Yeah.
Pull your extension off.
Oh, right.
There you go. Smoking.
Yeah.
That saved us a lot of hassle.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll jack the car up, get the wheels off, and do up the bottom part. That saved us a ton of time. I'm stoked.
All right.
All right, man. So we got the car up, and if you look on top of this control arm, right where I'm pointing the light, you can see that nut that you took off, just barely poking up.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go ahead and spin that off all the way? And if you reach down towards the bottom, yep, there should be a bushing and a washer you can get popped off.
Oh.
Now, do you see why we did this from the top side?
Yeah.
Yeah. We might have to install them.
I'm only getting...
That's fine.
this.
The bushing's probably stuck on there from all the years.
Yeah.
So slide out there for a second, and let me switch spots with you.
Okay.
Or actually go around over there. Here's your other two bolts that hold the shock to the lower control arm.
Okay.
So the top of the shock's bolted to the frame of the car.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom's bolted to the lower control arm. So the lower control arm moves up and down, and so does the shock.
Okay.
You should just be able to zip those out with the gun, I hope.
Well, this is a little...
I already went ahead and put some penetrating oil on them.
Okay.
Yep, you're going to have to get comfortable. That's why I told you head first, not feet first. Hold on. That's what I didn't want. There's a nut on the top side. There's a nut on the top side, so we're going to have to put a wrench or a socket on the top so these don't spin, so we can get these nuts off. All right, so Trevor and I worked together, and we got the first shock out, so now I can show him some of the differences here.
Yep.
Now, when we pulled the shock out, grab those two. Those are the brand new upper shock bushings that we will be putting into the car.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they should be.
Yep.
Here is the shock bushings that we pulled out.
Wow.
Do you see how, they're all collapsed?
Rounded.
And you see how the rubber's cracking?
Yeah.
So that's one of the big problems. Probably
these ones rounded, but these ones are...
because they're under compression when they're in the car, so over time they've just squished, and then they start to keep that shape. And then also over time, the UV heat cycles, all of that causes the rubber to degrade. Like the solvents in the rubber evaporate, and rubber gets hard and brittle and starts to crack. And that's probably one of the bigger issues with most of your suspension that we are going to have to address later down the road. But this is just one sign of how worn out these are.
Yeah.
Now, we got the shock on the bench, and at some point this car did have this nice upgrade of this gas rider shock.
Oh.
And we're putting in these KYB gas adjust just because that's the deal that I found. I want to show you for a second, Trevor. Grab the camera here.
The camera.
Yep, grab the camera. All right, Trevor, I'm going to show you one of the big differences of how we can tell the difference of the new shock and the old one. So we take our old shock, and I'm going to just use the ground, and I should be able to compress it pretty easily. And you see how slow it rises? So that means it doesn't have much of a gas charge left, and it took pretty minimal effort to compress it.
Right.
I'll take our new shock, and it takes substantially more effort to compress this. And if we go ahead and pop that out,
Goes up a lot faster.
comes up a lot faster. That meaning the gas charge in it, let's do a comparison. It has a better gas charge. Ready?
Yep.
So just a fun little way you can see. Now I've pulled shocks out of cars that are worse than this that just don't even come back up.
Oh, wow.
Let me grab the camera from you.
Okay.
You grab this one.
All right.
Go ahead and put it upside down and compress it. Got it?
Yeah.
It's coming back up.
Yeah.
Now do the new one. Watch out, Charles.
Ugh.
Put your hand on the top of it. There you go, and push down. There you go.
There.
Took quite a bit more work to get that one down, huh?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Try to play it off. All right, let's get this shock put back in. We'll get the other one taken back out, get the other one on the other side put in, we can get the car back on the ground. And then I'm going to show you an experiment on the rear when we do the rear shocks, all right?
Okay.
All right, so we got the front shocks all buttoned up. No issues there. You can see we turned the car around. We got the rear shocks out. They're up against the new ones. That was quite uneventful. Unfortunately, the camera didn't record it. I think the only exciting thing was I dropped a wrench on Trevor's face twice.
Yeah, and there was like a bunny.
There wasn't a bunny.
What?
That was Charles.
What?
So Trevor's dog, the Australian Shepherd that you see in our videos, Charles, was all the way up underneath the car, just all up in our business while we were trying to get the shocks
It was
out.
a bunny.
You're making it hard on us, so we tossed them inside for a little bit, but we got the new shocks out. We got them compared side to side. You want to see how the old ones are? They compressed like we did the fronts.
Sure.
Well, that looked pretty easy.
Yeah, I just don't know why I keep doing it like that.
All right.
Oh, slowly, slowly.
Slowly coming up. All right, let's see what the new ones are like.
Oh my. Please, exist.
You're not. I don't think you're gonna get it. So obviously a big difference in between the two. And the rear of this car is actually what was feeling pretty sketchy.
Yeah.
So that's gonna make a big difference. All right, Trevor, grab the camera. We'll switch spots. And I wanted to tell you what the shocks actually do.
Okay.
So you know that we have the springs on the car. We have the springs that were surrounding the front shocks, those round coil springs.
Yeah.
And you have a set in the rear. Those springs hold the weight of the car, and they also control the suspension.
Okay.
So when you hit a bump, the spring allows it to go up and down, and the stiffness of the spring determines your ride and how well the car handles.
All right.
The job of a shock is to control that spring.
Okay.
So we took both rear shocks off your car, right? We lowered it back onto the ground. There's no shocks on the car at all. So here's what the car does without shocks. Uncle Buck style, see?
Yeah.
So the job of a shock is to prevent the spring from just continuously doing that forever. Could you imagine driving this down the road? You'd hit a frequency, you look like a lowrider.
Want to go over speed bumps again?
No, I don't. Also, your rear shocks hold your rear end from falling too far down. So if we drove without your rear shocks, it could move too far and lose a spring. So I did this intentionally just so I can show you. We'll put in your new shocks, and then we'll come back and we'll see what your car does when we try to bounce it.
All right.
All right. So, but just with one easy bounce, you can see how much it's moving.
Yeah.
All right, we got Trevor's new rear shocks on.
Yep.
You ready to see if this thing bounces or not?
Yep. Hold on.
You ready?
Yep. Nope.
Big difference, huh?
Yeah.
That took a lot of my weight and it barely moved.
Yeah.
What do you say we hop in this thing and see how it rides?
All right.
All right, man. Do you feel a difference?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's so light back there. It actually feels like there's some weight to it.
That's a good way to describe it. It does. It still has some, you know, little jarring on the bumps, but it does feel a lot better.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel perfect. There's still plenty more stuff that we need to do back there. Mainly, we need some control arm bushings in the rear and front. All the suspension bushings, really. I kind of snuck a peek while we had the car in the air, and both of your rear axle bearings have a little bit more play than I would like. So I think that's contributing to the looseness feeling that we have in the rear. But just cruising down the road, it rides a lot better.
Yeah.
Now that took us, a couple hours.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
Which one was harder, get the front shocks on or the rear shocks?
They're both equal.
It wasn't too bad.
Back ones were more pain.
So how about we go ram some sway bars on this thing?
Yeah.
All right. There, we got the car back in the air. Let's curl down and I'm going to show you what you need to do to get your front sway bar off, okay?
Right.
This one's pretty easy.
Oh, yay.
You're going to remove these bolts right here.
Right.
See them? There's two on each one?
Yep.
On each side.
There.
If you go under your control arm.
Got one big bolt.
See that bolt right here?
I see the one on mine. I see the one on yours too.
Okay. Now, if you look on top of your sway bar, this is your sway bar.
Yeah.
I should have started with that.
Well, I had a feeling.
Okay. Now, do you see that bolt goes up and it's one big bolt and it bolts on the top of the sway bar? Look over there at your sway bar.
I see it.
So you just have to take both of those bolts off where it bolts onto the lower control arms.
All right.
Do those first.
Okay.
And then unbolt these bolts up here where it holds onto the frame.
Okay.
That's all you gotta do.
And then it falls down on me?
You're gonna hold it so it doesn't fall down on you.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll help you. And then we'll get this popped off and then I'll compare this. I'll show you the comparison of this to your new sway bar.
Okay.
And I'll explain to you how these work.
Okay.
So now we just need to, actually, now that we have the sway bar disconnected from each control arm, you can see how it moves. Like that.
Sadly, yes.
Well, that's how it's supposed to move when we're driving down the road. It's exaggerated.
Oh.
But it's because it's not connected to the control arms allows me to move it like this. So I just wanted you to see this so when we have it out of the car, I'll explain to you how it works. But you remember, it's attached to the frame right here, okay? And we're going to take those off right now.
Oh, wow.
There we go. There's one. And two. Doink. And your side. There you go. Yep. Again. One more. There you go. It's off. Should have used your glasses. There you go. There you go. There you go. Good job. Ugh. All right. Can you see the size difference of your aftermarket front sway bar and your stock front sway bar?
Yeah.
So this one, I don't even know what this one is. It's probably a little over 3/4 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
The new one is 1 1/4 inch thick.
Oh, wow.
Now, one thing to also keep in mind is a sway bar acts as a spring. It's like sprung steel. So it's really hard to twist, and it twists back to where it was at when you started.
Yeah.
Remember these we took off just now are bolted to the frame of the car?
Yeah.
Okay. So these outer points are bolted to the lower control arms.
Oh.
Okay. So when we're driving and I started to turn the car and it started really rolling heavy side to side, is what's happening is all the weight of the car is leaning the one side, and on the side that it's leaning to, it's pushing that suspension up into the wheel well, and the other side's falling down. So both the control arms on, say, the front of the car are going in opposite directions. And that's from the movement of all the weight in the car. Since the sway bar here is bolted to the frame on either side, and then it is bolted to either control arm,
Yeah.
in order for the car to lean like that,
Yeah.
I like how you're twisting the camera. It will have to twist this bar in order to make the car lean. So we put a thicker diameter bar in the front, so that's going to be harder for it to twist, but it also has a different spring rate, so it's a lot stiffer, so it's going to resist the car from wanting to twist and really make it feel like we're going to tip over when I'm turning the steering wheel very hard. Now the rear of the car doesn't have a sway bar at all,
Yeah.
so the front one's going to make a big difference, the rear one's going to make a radical difference because there's nothing there in general. So we're putting a bigger, stiffer one on the front. The rear one is bigger and stiffer than what a car would have came with if it was optioned with a sway bar. But since you don't even have a sway bar, it's going to make even a bigger difference. So this came with new hardware. We're just going to go ahead and reverse the installation process from how we removed the other one.
Okay.
And we'll be set for the front.
Okay.
Alright, so the front sway bar is in, but before we show you that, you can see the bushings that we took out of it. They were in rough shape.
Yeah.
Fortunately, all that got replaced, but that certainly wasn't helping any of our handling that we had in the car. And the sway bar is pretty much as you would expect.
Yeah.
It's up and in. I will say that it was a bit of a tight fit over here on the passenger side by the idler arm. And it also was a little difficult to get the end links from the control arm up in through the top of the sway bar because the bolts were hitting the spindles. We initially installed this and bolted it up to the car first. I didn't have any room to get the nuts on because they were hitting the cowsill nuts on the spindles. So we removed it from the car and we could pull it forward. Got all of the hardware started on the end links for the control arms, then bolted it back up into the car. Definitely the better order of operations to get this installed. So, with that being said, the front sway bar is done and the front end of the car is as finished as it's going to be until we come back around and rebuild the suspension. Trevor and I have decided we're going to come back out tomorrow and we're going to tackle the rear sway bar. So, we'll see you guys here in a minute. Alright man, day 2, you ready to get this knocked out and finished up?
Yeah.
Take it for a test and see how much better it handles with no body lean.
Yeah.
So all we need to do is get this rear sway bar installed. Although, since you have a GMA body, the rear sway bar is pretty unconventional and unique to most other cars that are out there. So I am going to set down the camera and I want to crawl under here and show you how it's different. So, remember on the front of your car how your sway bar bolted up to the frame on either side and then to the lower control arms?
Yeah.
Well, on the rear of your car, the sway bar doesn't bolt to the frame at all. It doesn't bolt to the rear end at all. It actually bolts on the outside here of these lower control arms.
Oh, wow.
Now, do you see a big problem with those lower control arms in your sway bar, sir?
Yeah, they only have one hole.
Well, that's not even the right hole.
Oh.
But you're correct. There's no holes to bolt the sway bar on. not a big deal. We're going to go ahead and drill the holes that we need to on there. But we need to measure them and we need to drill them, which it's going to be tough on the car. So first order of business today is actually remove the rear control arms from the car. And we'll do all that on the bench, get the holes drilled, reinstall them back into the car, and then we can bolt the sway bar on.
All right.
All right, sir, why don't you slide over to the other side. I'll show you how to get this control arm off. I'll do the right-hand side because it's a little bit harder with the exhaust.
Okay.
Then you'll be in charge for reinstalling it. And on the driver's side, you're going to have to take that one off and put it back on.
Oh, okay.
Now, I think we're just going to take them off one at a time because these control arms help locate the rear end.
Okay.
And I want to keep it in position rather than have to have it move around on us. So it's going to be pretty easy. It's only 2 bolts. They're just a little tricky to get to. One right here. There's a nut on the back side. And we're going to use our 1/2-inch impact, your favorite. And I wrench the back it. You ready?
Yeah.
Just like so. And I can already tell that's putting tension on it. So the bolt's getting wedged in there. So I'm going to run the wrench on the back side, put tension on the back side of the head. There we go. See how that was holding tension on the rear end? It kind of moved. So it's going to be a little bit trickier to get the control arms back in. We'll figure out. That's why we're only removing one at a time and not both. So this front arm is a little harder to get to because the bolt actually goes through the frame. So we're going to switch to a longer extension. So it's the same thing except we have to use a long extension. And hopefully we don't lose too much power from the impact gun. Put that extension and a wrench on the inside. There you go.
All right.
We'll take that to the bench and get it measured so you can start drilling some holes.
Okay.
So with the control arm on the bench, it is much, much easier to get the proper factory locations for our mounting bolts for our sway bar. In order to do so, we measure from the center point of the rear bushing 4 11/16 forward, mark our spot for a hole. The second hole is 10 11/16 forward, which happens to put them 6 inches apart. And they're 1 1/16 of an inch from the very top flange of this. Just using a little carpenter square makes quick work of that. So you can see that we marked our lines down. Boom and boom. Did it on both sides. We're going to take this, I'll center punch it, drill some pilot holes, and then it's up to Trevor to go ahead and drill a hole. And I think we'll go ahead and see what size drill bit is the best fit for these bolts because we don't want to have big loose holes. And then we'll report back what we end up finding. Get those drilled out. While Trevor's drilling those, I am going to take some bar that we have here. I'm going to cut that the length on the inside and sleeve it. As I mentioned, down the road, or actually I should say this winter, we plan on replacing all of the rear suspension bushings, and I'm probably going to go through, we'll sandblast these arms, box them, and paint them. Now, from the factory at the rear sway bar, these are boxed, so without yours being boxed, which would be capping this bottom side, Trevor, we're going to lose a little bit of strength, and that sway bar is going to make these arms flex. But for right now, we're just trying to get this rear sway bar on. We're not looking to do a whole suspension rebuild because we're enjoying the car this summer. So definitely not the right way to do it. We're not maximizing all the benefits of the sway bar, but it's better than nothing. The key is getting these holes in, and we'll refurbish these arms this winter. So let's get the drilling.
Okay.
have it. It is all buttoned up. After we pulled out this one on the right-hand side, the rear end slid back probably 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah. And
that's exactly why I did one at a time. So in order to get the control arm back in, I just put the front of the control arm in because that is harder to get the bolt through because it's going through the frame. And then I threw a ratchet strap around the rear end up to the front of the frame and re-ratchet strapped it in and put the rear bolt in, left them loose. When we did this side, I was proactive, put the ratchet strap on before we removed the control arm, which made it quite a bit easier to get in and out. We did the same thing, marked the holes, drilled the holes, built our sleeves. Once all of that was done, we had both control arms set in, left everything loose, put the sway bar in. Then we lowered the car on the ground. I jounced the suspension a couple times. I tightened up the sway bar first. Then I went and tightened all the control arm bolts. I did so that way we didn't have the bushings under tension. You want the weight of the vehicle on the car when you tighten the suspension bushings. I was showing Trevor about that. When we had them out, we also kind of took a peek at those bushings. They're exactly as I expected. They're starting to deteriorate. The rubber's cracking. Again, we plan on addressing that this winter, but for now, we are set. The rear sway bar is in. We got all of our shocks in.
Yeah.
All the bolts are tight and torqued down. Now, we got to go take the car for a spin. The moment of truth, the payoff. We got to see how it's going to handle.
Yeah.
If it's any better or not.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Well, swapping out the accelerator pump got rid of the hesitation.
Yeah.
So it's running good, very smooth.
Yeah.
And so far, it's riding like it did yesterday over the bumps.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit more controlled. Feels good. Right up here, this section's really going to tell us because it was pretty bumpy.
I can definitely feel the weight. Like, again, I can still, like, it's weird feeling the weight back there.
All right, let's see how this bumpy road does. Nothing.
Huh?
So when we're hitting the bumps with both front tires, it's going to move the sway bar at the same time, so it doesn't affect the ride. If we hit one big bump on one side, the sway bar, since it's stiffer, is going to make that suspension a little bit stiffer on that, so it will affect the ride on bumps in that sense.
Yeah.
Like right now, you're not really going to feel the difference of the sway bars until we start throwing the car into some corners.
Car threw rust at me.
Yeah, it's going to do that for a while until we get rid of it all.
Yeah, well, it came back there and went,
This thing rides so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, if it had like door seals and trunk seals where things wouldn't rattle, and if it had an interior, it would be, you know, almost like a regular car.
Yeah.
But considering...
That's only a few things.
A few. Considering this was left in a field or out under a bunch of trees for 25 years, it's come a long ways in 11 months.
Yeah.
So here comes these big speed bumps. I actually anticipate this might be a little bit worse with the stiffer shocks. Yeah, you can feel them more now, huh? Beforehand, you would just float right over them. You wouldn't even feel these things.
Yeah.
Now it kind of bumps us around. Oh, yeah, for sure. Your old shocks weren't doing anything.
Yeah. It
just feels nicer to ride in, though.
Yeah.
So when we're cruising to the next car show, it won't be so rickety.
Yeah. That one wasn't that bad.
No. You know, if the speedometer worked, I'd know how fast we're going. But I don't.
What do you mean? It's telling us we're going quick miles per hour.
It tells us we're going somewhere in between 30 and 40 miles an hour. Just, it's like a pendulum, just sweeping. So.
Well, look how dirty it is. It's trying to clean it.
Yeah. I think it was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a smoking deal on everything. All the parts were brand new. Never used them, never installed them. I had all the pieces I needed for them.
Yep.
And we paid $150 for it all, which I think is far cheaper just than what the sway bars cost alone. Almost basically got the shocks for free at that point.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm not unsuspecting this time.
You're not. You know what's coming.
I know it's coming.
All right, here's our first couple corners.
I mean, it's not too terrible.
Well, that feels a lot better.
Yeah, it's not as bad as last time.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for the slalom run here?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going, I think, about the same speed. Let's go. Oh, that...
I'm just kind of sliding around. I'm not jumping around.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's film from the outside again.
All right.
All right.
See ya. I saw your head bobbing around.
It really makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, let's head home.
All right.
That made quite a radical difference. I was expecting a pretty big difference, but that exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
That was $150 well spent.
Yeah.
And one of the key things in this car is the safety items. Obviously, it's an older car, especially by today's day and age. So the deal that we made with Trevor is anything that's safety related, his mom and I are going to take care of, and we're going to pay for that because although it is an older car, we do want it to be as safe as possible for Trevor. So stuff like the suspension, the brakes, the tires, that's stuff that we're going to pay for. Anything that really improves the safety for him, so that way when he is on the road, he is driving the car, you know, he can better keep up with some of today's traffic and cars. Mm-hmm. But don't fret. He's keeping that 350 in that 2-barrel car because with that 2-barrel, he's not going anywhere quick and he's not getting in any sorts of trouble.
Yeah.
It's measly little 150 horsepower. So I will say doing the shocks and these sway bars are probably two of the easiest things you can do to almost any suspension. They're really kind of reviving it and spruce it up. And honestly, on all of my fun cars that I have, they all have different sway bars. They all have different shocks on them. Improving the handling makes a great big difference. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of dumb luck that I fell into this deal and we did these two things on the car. Although, if I didn't have this good deal and I was shopping to buy brand new parts, doing the shocks and the sway bars would be my go-to before I dove all the way in and went for all the suspension bushings and doing a full rebuild. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, guys, you can do things on a budget, small little things. We can nitpick on it. We've had this car for about 11 months now. It's been on the road for just a few months. We've done a couple drives. The last car show we went to, it was further away from home, about 40 miles round trip, and it was feeling a little rough. So that's when I knew it was time to finally get to this project and handle the suspension. So we got that dialed, we're set. And I think the next big thing on the list, Trevor, we need to deal with the exhaust. This car has made it 52 years with the factory single exhaust. Yeah. And that's all going to change in the next video, guys. We're going to whole new exhaust system for the car. It's going to be pretty great. Definitely stick around. You want to see that video. As for now, we appreciate you guys for watching. Trevor, the rest is on you.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please click the like button. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video.
See you guys.